While I was away on vacation, my mother decided to sell my house so she could pay off my sister's debt of $214,000. When I came back, they were laughing about it like it was some kind of joke. "Guess what, you're homeless now," they said. I just smiled. That seemed to bother them. "What's so funny?" my mom snapped, clearly irritated. I told her I'd explain later that there was something about that house they didn't quite know. My name is Elias. I am 32 years old, and I work as a real estate agent, the kind of guy who lives by color-coded calendars and keeps open house cookies in his car. I'm the oldest child, which automatically makes me the one everyone turns to when something goes wrong. I'm the guy who keeps a toolbox in the trunk and spare paperwork in the glove compartment, just in case. In my family, if anything leaks, breaks, or someone starts crying, it somehow becomes my problem to fix. I was never the favorite, though. That spot always belonged to my younger sister, Lena. She was the storm, the attention, the emergency siren. I was just the one expected to calm everything down after the chaos, the fire extinguisher, not the flame. Most people think being a real estate agent is all nice kitchens, friendly smiles, and big checks. The truth is, it's early mornings, flooded basements, and clients who fall head over heels for houses they can't afford. Still, I loved it. There's something special about handing someone a set of keys and saying, "Welcome home." Maybe it's because a real home was the one thing I always wanted for myself, a quiet, steady place nobody could take from me. The night before my trip, I stood in my living room with my suitcase waiting by the door and a travel pillow hanging around my neck like a donut. My Airbnb guests had just checked out, the cleaners had finished, and I was doing my usual routine, walking through the house, counting windows, checking locks, breathing in that lemon-scented air. The backyard lights flicked on, tiny gold dots glowing against the dark. It looked like a life I had built, my own. "Text me when you land," my mom said over the phone, her voice clipped and businesslike. "And do not post too much. You know how people get jealous." Jealous? Of me sitting on a plane for 10 hours? I joked. "Elias," she said in that tone I knew too well. I could picture her tight little smile even without seeing it. "Just be careful." "I will," I told her. "And if you talk to the bank, can you ask about extending the—" "Mom," I cut in gently. "I'm leaving at 5 in the morning. We'll talk later." There was a pause, then her voice softened. "Have fun, honey." "I will." The next day, I flew to Maui. It was my first real vacation in 3 years, no clients, no showings, no last-minute, "Hey, can you come look at this leak?" My phone stayed on airplane mode like it was finally getting a break too. I read books on the beach. I fell asleep to the sound of the waves. I woke up early enough to watch the sunrise turn the sand from gray to gold. A bartender showed me how to slice a pineapple the right way. Some little kid asked if I was famous because I wore sunglasses and walked fast. I laughed more during those 6 days than I had in the past 6 months. On the 7th morning, while eating breakfast at the hotel, I finally turned my phone back on. I figured I would see a few texts about bills or mail. Instead, my notifications stacked up like a tower ready to fall: 19 missed calls from Mom, 12 from Dad, 7 from Lena. One message preview from Dad caught my eye: important update about the house. Call now. My heart started pounding. A piece of papaya slipped off my fork onto the plate. A server came by to refill my coffee and asked if everything was okay. I nodded too quickly and scrolled through message after message, my stomach turning colder with every word. When I finally hit the call button, Mom answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" she demanded. "In Maui," I said slowly. "Why?" Her voice was rushed, almost cheerful. "We took care of something for you." "What do you mean, took care of something?" "Your house," she said. "It's sold." My fork clattered against the plate. "What?" "You are welcome," she said, like she'd done me a favor. "You'll understand when you see the numbers." I just sat there, staring at nothing. A kid at the next table laughed at something his dad said, and for a second that ordinary sound made my eyes sting. Mom kept talking. "Do not be dramatic, Elias. It is done. Come home. I set my phone on the table and stared at the ocean, waves crashing, pulling back, crashing again. The noise in my head went from a faint hiss to a sharp ringing. Somewhere back home, in the house I had worked so hard to build, everything had changed while I was gone. Then my screen lit up again, a text from Lena. Just one line. Finally even things out. You can crash on my couch if you need to. I did not respond. I just finished my coffee, booked the next available flight, and packed with my hands shaking. Before I left for the airport, another message came in, this time from Dad. It was short, proud, and cold. Tough lesson, son. But this is family. You will thank us one day. I did not argue. I just stood there at the sink, letting the Hawaiian sunlight hit the faucet until it shimmered like metal on fire. And that was when I smiled, because the house they sold was not what they thought it was. My sister and I grew up in a small 3-bedroom ranch that creaked every time the wind blew too hard. My mom kept a rainy day jar on top of the refrigerator and a mental scoreboard she never let me forget. The jar was for emergencies, the scoreboard was for keeping track of my performance. When I brought home straight A's, she would nod and say, "That's good, that's expected." But if Lena managed to get a C+, she would clap her hands like the lights had just come back on after a storm. Huge improvement, she'd cheer. When I finally got my driver's license, I became Lena's personal chauffeur, driving her to tutoring sessions, hair appointments, and parties where I'd wait outside drinking a fast food soda while she danced under string lights and came back smelling like somebody else's cologne. If I ever asked my dad for gas money, he'd tell me, invest in yourself. But if Lena wanted a new phone, my mom would sigh, well, she needs to stay connected. When I was 19, I got my first real job as an assistant to a real estate agent named Colin, a guy who wore loafers with tiny anchors and always smelled like cologne that cost more than my car. He taught me how to read a roof from the curb, how to recognize the sound of termites inside walls, and how to keep my voice calm even when a basement started shaking. At 21, I passed my licensing exam on the second try. I sat in my car afterward and cried for 10 minutes, not the kind of crying that makes noise, just the kind that lets all the air out of your chest. That first year in real estate, I learned the old formula: 10 showings lead to 1 offer, 2 offers lead to 1 sale, and 1 sale means you get to breathe for a month. I wore the same blue suit so often that the elbows started to shine. I bought clients coffee I could not afford. And when an older couple hugged me at closing and said, "We could not have done this without you," I actually believed them. That belief kept me going on nights when dinner was just microwaved rice and eggs. Meanwhile, Lena floated through life. First it was cosmetology school, then influencer dreams, then consulting for a friend's boutique. My parents called it finding herself. What she actually found was credit. By the time she was 26, she had a shiny car, 5 store credit cards, and a habit of posting champagne glasses on social media with captions like "Work hard, play harder." I watched those minimum payments climb like ivy up a wall. At our house, money talks always seemed to circle back to her. Just until next month, Mom would say, sliding an envelope across the table. "We cannot let her drown." Dad would nod and add, "She has potential." Me? I was not potential, I was the plan. "Elias will figure it out," Mom used to say. "He's good with numbers." And she was right. Numbers were what eventually helped me get the property they thought was my house. When the housing market dipped a couple of years ago, a group of investors pulled out of a new development near the park. Clean modern lines, white oak finishes, big sliding doors. The developers started to panic. I had been brokering some of their listings, so I knew exactly who to call. In that moment of panic, I saw an opening. My old mentor's voice echoed in my head: "Control the asset, control the outcome." So, I formed a small company, a limited liability company called Willow Pine Holdings. It cost me $300 and one painfully boring operating agreement. The company signed a master lease on the property with an option to buy it later at a fixed price. I paid the first and last months of rent plus a security deposit straight from my savings. Then I started renting it out legally on Airbnb to traveling nurses and families between homes. The cash flow was steady. The option meant I could purchase the home when my financing was ready or assign the contract to a client if the market spiked. On paper, my own name was nowhere to be found, not because I was hiding, but because I know how people, especially relatives, can get creative when they think your things are really theirs. To my parents, I simply said I was staying there. It was easier than trying to explain beneficial ownership or right to purchase agreements. I kept the official documents in a fireproof box and the digital copies in a folder on my computer labeled taxes. The deed was not under my name. The lease was not under my name. Even the mailbox had a small silver nameplate that read Willow Pine Holdings LLC. Meanwhile, Lena's financial mess only got worse. Her car payment was $642 a month. She had 4 credit cards totaling $17,300, plus another $9,700 on a personal card, and a $12,600 balance on yet another account that started as $1,900. She took out a personal loan for $28,000, and then came the biggest mistake, some online investor course at 19.9% interest. After that, the quiet problems started: rent payments she missed, beauty appointments she did not cancel, fancy dinners charged to cards that smiled back at her in every photo she posted. Sometimes, around 1 in the morning, I would get a text from her: "Can you send me $300? It's for a business thing. I will pay you back Friday." I helped her twice. She never paid me back either time. When she asked again, I finally said no. She ran straight to Mom, who told me I was being cold-hearted. The day before I left for Hawaii, Lena stopped by while I was changing a few light bulbs in the kitchen. "This place is so you," she said, spinning around. "A little boring, super organized." "It's just a rental," I told her. She smirked. "You always downplay everything." Then she leaned against the counter. "You know what's not boring? Hawaii." "Who are you going with?" "Myself," I said. "Lame." She popped her gum and asked, "Can you send me $600 through the app? I will give it back Tuesday." "No," I said flatly. "Stop asking." She rolled her eyes. "Whatever. Must be nice to hoard everything." I watched her walk out and then opened the Notes app on my phone. I typed one line and underlined it twice. No more loans. No more rescues. Oh days. "There he is," she called when she saw me. Her voice had that sharp, falsely cheerful edge it always gets when she's already decided I'm wrong. "We were worried you'd miss us." "Miss what?" I asked, walking right past her. The front door was propped open with a paint can. The air smelled like Windex and warm drywall. "Closing up," she said briskly. "The new owner wants to start renovations right away." I looked at the so-called new owner, the same guy from the diner. He stood by the fireplace, snapping photos like he was an influencer. Same golf shirt. Same smug face. He gave me a quick nod, confident and uninterested. He had no idea who I was. Or what I knew. Lena came out of the kitchen wearing a sweatshirt that said "Blessed" across the front. She looked me up and down like I'd shown up to a dinner party empty-handed. "Hey, Benny," she said lightly. "How was Maui?" "I'm not doing this out here," I said. "Everyone. Inside. Now." They followed, the way people do when they still believe they're the ones running the story. We sat down in the living room. Mom crossed her ankles neatly. Dad stood, hands in his pockets, already expecting to be thanked. The buyer scrolled on his phone, pretending not to listen. Mom started first, her voice bright and careful. "We made a tough call. But family comes first." I took a slow breath, one that felt like it decided everything. "You sold a house that doesn't belong to you." The room went quiet. Mom's smile twitched. "Don't be childish, Elias. It's your house. Everyone knows that." "No," I said evenly. "It's a property controlled by my company, Willow Pine Holdings, under a master lease with a recorded option to purchase. The title is clean, and my name is nowhere on it. The deed you signed isn't a deed, it's just a fake piece of paper." The buyer froze mid-scroll. Lena snorted. "Oh my God, Ben," she said. Nobody cares about your weird paperwork games. I turned toward her. Did you pay off your debt with the wire transfer? She lifted her chin. Yeah. So what? How much? I don't have to tell you that, she snapped. You do, I said quietly. If you used money from a fraudulent sale. Dad stepped forward. Watch your tone. I looked him straight in the eye. No. He stared at me like I'd spoken in another language. Mom jumped in, voice sugar-sweet. Elias, we saved your credit. We got you out from under that mortgage. We. There was no mortgage, I interrupted. There was an option. There was rental income. And there were paying tenants with bookings through October, which you just canceled like it was a brunch reservation. Mom's mouth opened and closed. The buyer cleared his throat. Look, he said cautiously. We can unwind this if. You should definitely unwind it, I said, turning to him. And you might want to call your lawyer before you try to record anything. Because if you plowed my title, I'll come after your errors and omissions insurance, and I won't settle. He paused, calculating fast, then stepped back. This sounds like a family issue, he muttered, and slipped outside to make a call. Mom's eyes went cold. We did what had to be done, she said. Lena was drowning. Lena folded her arms. I'm not apologizing for trying to save my life. I set my hands on my knees so they wouldn't shake. I didn't ask for an apology, I said quietly. I'm setting a boundary. Dad scoffed. Here we go. Therapy talk. I gave a small nod. Call it what you want, I said quietly, but listen close, because I'm only going to say this once. The room went still. Everyone could feel that shift, the kind that makes you realize something serious just landed on the table. This isn't about getting even, I told them. It's about ending things clean. Mom let out a laugh that cut sharp through the air. Ending things? Oh, Elias, don't make this dramatic. I stood up anyway. My legs felt solid for the first time in days. I already spoke to the developer and the title company, I said. Paperwork's moving. There'll be a fraud report, and the county will lock down the title. The guy who wired the money will get it back soon enough and go try his luck with some other family. If not, the judge will decide. I looked straight at her. But you used my name. That's not a small mistake. That's forgery. That's identity theft. I'm not calling the cops right now, not because you don't deserve it, but because I can't stand the idea of my mother's mugshot on a public record. My voice didn't rise. I'm just finished. Her expression tightened. Finished with what? Being your backup plan, I said. Being the one you drain and then act like I should thank you for the opportunity. Lena rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. You love to play the victim. You stack money like a dragon and call it discipline. I call it being responsible, I said. I call it paying bills, paying taxes, and not lying to banks. She shot back, we didn't lie to anyone. You did, I said, and that's the last time. Dad jabbed a finger toward the door. If you're going to talk like that, you can get the hell out of this family. I almost smiled. Already done. You don't understand peace until you mute a group chat that's been shouting your name for half your life. I blocked Lena. Set my parents' messages to silent. Then I drove back to my office, shut the door, and just sat there breathing until my chest stopped aching. Tessa, my friend and paralegal, walked in holding a legal pad and a bright pink highlighter. Okay, she said. Tell me everything. Start from the top. So I did. The lease, the option, the emails, the Airbnb permits. The buyer's garbage contract that looked like it had been written by someone who learned law from YouTube. And the bank statement, $380,000 wired into my parents' account, then scattered across creditors like confetti. We filled the page with names, dates, arrows, and totals until it looked like a subway map drawn in anger. That same afternoon, we filed 3 things. A fraud affidavit at the recorder's office. A cease and desist for the buyer. And a dry, professional letter to my parents telling them to keep every document they touched. No threats. No yelling. Just clean sentences with full stops. In real estate, boring language hits harder than rage ever could. The buyer was the first to cave. He called that night, sounding like a totally different man. "We were only trying to help your folks," he said, voice all soft now. "No," I told him. "You were trying to pocket 20 grand by flipping something you never owned." He paused. "My lawyer says I should." "Send the wire back," I said. "And we can both forget this happened." 2 days later, he did. The county threw out his fake deed, marked the lot as suspicious activity, and the developer emailed me one word: handled. That night, I slept 8 full hours without touching my phone once. But my parents didn't let up. Mom called 6 times the next day. I let it ring every time. She left 3 voicemails that could have been an entire stage play. Act 1, guilt. Act 2, tears. Act 3, threats. First voicemail: "You're taking this the wrong way. We did it for you. Call me back and we'll fix it." Second, I talked to Pastor Harlan. "He says pride is clouding your judgment. Elias, please, this isn't you." Third, if you don't respond, we'll have to tell people what really happened. I saved them all in a folder named documentation and went for a walk. Later that day, Lena posted a story, her flipping her hair with the caption "Haters gonna hate." Someone sent it to me with, "Dude, your sister okay?" I typed a bunch of responses, erased them, and finally just wrote, "Yeah." Then I flipped my phone screen down and walked away. By Friday, Dad stormed into my office like he owned the place. Told my receptionist he was there to set his son straight. Tessa met him at the door like security with manners. "I need to see Elias," he said. She gave him that calm smile of hers. "He's not available right now." He tried to push past, but she didn't move an inch. "Sir," she said evenly, "this office is under notice for an active fraud issue. For everyone's protection, please put your message in writing." He froze, like the word fraud had hit him in the throat, then turned and left without another word. That weekend, I went back to the house. It was empty and echoing, lemon-scented from a fresh clean. The string lights outside buzzed faintly in the wind. I sat on the floor for a long time, picturing the space the way I wanted it: couch here, table there, maybe a plant that looked alive for half a year before giving up. I could have bought it right then. The numbers worked. But my gut said wait. Monday morning, Mom texted. A long paragraph that started with "we're family" and ended with "you owe us a talk." I answered, "Everything you need to know is in the letter." 2 hours later, she sent 3 words: "We were scared." I stared at them until they blurred. I typed, deleted, typed again, and finally sent back, "I know." Then I put my phone down before I could ruin the quiet. The messages kept coming for weeks: 17 one day, silence for 3 days, then another burst. My cousin Evan sent me a screenshot from the family chat. Lena had called me a landlord leech. Mom wrote that I was letting strangers sleep in my home for money while my sister struggled to breathe. Aunt Robin chimed in, "He has plenty. He could share a little." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't send proof. Sometimes silence is the cleanest reply you can give. I didn't post screenshots or proof. I just watered the little plant on my desk, answered client calls, and kept my head down. That afternoon, I showed a modest 2-bedroom condo to a nurse who'd been working night shifts for almost a decade. When she stepped onto the balcony and saw the sunrise spilling across the horizon, she started crying quietly. "I haven't seen the sun come up in years," she said. I pressed the keys into her hand and said, "Welcome home." For the first time in a long while, the air around me felt clean. Then came the night when everything came into sharp focus. Sunday dinner. I hadn't shown up in months. At exactly 3:14 p.m., Dad texted me, "We're eating at 6. You should be here." No question mark. No apology. Just an order. And I went. Not to argue, not to fix anything, but to finish something that had been dragging too long. When I walked in, the table looked like it was ripped from a magazine spread, the good dishes, a roast chicken steaming in the center, a mason jar filled with baby's breath. Lena sat at the far end, scrolling her phone like a bored queen. Mom looked up with that smile she uses when she's pretending everything's fine. Dad poured water like it was whiskey. "Elias," he said. "Good. Sit." I sat down. No weather talk, no small pleasantries. Mom went straight for it. "We've been thinking about a new plan." Something in me almost laughed. Of course they had. "We know we acted a little rash," she continued, "but the bills are still real. Lena's lease makes it impossible for her to move right now, so." I lifted a hand. "Stop." Her voice sharpened. "Excuse me?" I kept my tone even. "There isn't going to be a plan. Not with me involved." Dad's palm hit the table with a crack that made the plates jump. "Watch your mouth in my house." I looked him straight in the eye. "Then talk to me like a grown man, because that's what I am. I'm not paying for Lena's life. I'm not signing, co-signing, selling, or lending. And I'm done attending family meetings where I get outvoted 3-1 and told it's love." Lena rolled her eyes. "So you're just going to let your sister drown?" "She's not drowning," I said calmly. "She's swimming in a pool she can't afford and yelling for the lifeguard." Mom's voice trembled. "How dare you speak that way?" "Easily," I said. "Because I've already tried being kind. I've tried being quiet. I've sent money when I shouldn't have. And every time, it just dragged me deeper into your mess. So now I'm trying boundaries. They'll hold." Dad leaned forward. "You're ungrateful." "For what?" I asked. "For driving her around for years? For being told to always be the bigger person? For the house you tried to sell that wasn't even yours?" Mom's eyes flashed. "We were trying to save you." I looked at her, then at Lena, whose phone now lay face down, a dark, silent mirror. "You weren't saving me," I said. "You were erasing me." Silence swallowed the table. Even the clock ticking sounded too loud. I pushed my chair back. "I'm done for the night," I said. "If anyone's ever sick or there's a real emergency, I'll show up. But I'm not your emergency fund. Not anymore." Lena crossed her arms. "So you're just walking away?" "Yes," I said simply. "From this." I walked out. The door clicked shut behind me, soft but final. Outside, the air felt heavy, almost liquid. When I got in the car, my phone buzzed, once, twice, then over and over. 5 calls. 10. 30. I watched the number climb to 33, then turned the screen face down and drove through the dark. That night, I slept straight through. In the morning, I brewed coffee and stood in the quiet kitchen, the kind of silence that feels earned. No messages yet until 8:07. Mom's text, "I don't recognize you anymore." I set the phone down, smiled, and said out loud, "Me neither." Then I took a slow sip. 3 months passed, and the noise finally thinned out. Mom sends links now, forgiveness articles, inspirational quotes. I don't respond. Our entire relationship fits into a single exchange. "I love you. I'm not funding you." Dad barely talks. When he does, it's about mortgage rates or tax codes, and I answer like he's any other client. Lena's reinvented herself as accountability. She shredded a credit card on camera and texted, "Are we good?" I replied, "We're adults." I finally exercised the purchase option and bought the house, not to prove anything, just to have peace. I furnished it slowly. 1 chair. 1 lamp. 1 rule, nothing I'll have to apologize for later. Some nights I sit under those string lights, breathing in the quiet. I think, this is mine. Not the walls. The calm. People chase control. I chase boundaries. I've learned charity doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Holidays now mean cards, not dinners. No, we won't skip the inspection. A missed call from mom no longer makes my stomach drop. Love still lives here, just different now. It costs something else. For years, I kept paying the bill for things I never ordered. But one day, I finally put the pen down. At a recent closing, a teacher cried into my shoulder. I never thought I'd get here, she said. I know, I told her softly. That night, I ate dinner alone. Phone face down. Yard humming outside. Morning came, coffee, shower, shoes. A voicemail from mom said she left lasagna on the porch steps. No words. I didn't go. I bought a single slice in the park instead. Simple. Mine. Closure, I've learned, isn't about slamming doors, it's about walking through new ones. I'm Elias. I work hard. I care deeply. I love my family. But I don't pay their bills anymore. If that makes me the villain, then fine. I've got a life worth living.